Hello.
Welcome back.
I'm Nicole.
I'm Megan.
And you're listening to the Synchronicity podcast where we change your brain to change your life here over at Synchronicity.
And we use microdosing, Carl Jung, and it's all science-based. And today we're going to make that very clear because apparently it's not clear.
Okay.
But
first.
So everything is scientifically backed. Anything that I say or Nicole says is not made up. It's not how we feel. It is scientific, logic, masculine-based information. We are not in our feminine on this podcast, whether I'm wearing a skirt or not.
And I'm wearing pink.
We can back up anything we say with science. So these men that are like, alphas are only males and, you know, mansplaining to us what alphas are in the comments. I completely understand you and I see you.
You have every right to do that, but listen.
But I'm going to explain to you, because obviously nobody ever has, what an alpha is and what we are talking about when we talk about alpha archetype versus beta archetype. So,
buckle up, buttercup.
Buckle up. Well, and this is actually very needed. And it's kind of like my sweater. I wear a very specific sweater. If you can't see this, it's sheep. And there's a black, just one black sheep. Not several, just one on my sweater. Okay? If you want to know what it looks like, Princess Diana had the same one. It was just in red. I'm wearing a green one. But alphas are leaders. You can even read about this in psychology books. It's not the biggest, strongest. It is actually usually the smartest, but also there is some physical attributes of alpha. But even in the book, The Male Brain by Luann Brizendine, she talks about male alphas and how the alphas that are alphas in kindergarten are still the alphas when they're full grown. So yes, typically alphas are male, and alpha is male. That is correct. So alpha females are an anomaly, but they do happen. Alphas are born. It is a brain wave. If you have not heard me go off about sigmas and the bullshit thing that they're talking about with sigma is not a brainwave. That is not scientific. Somebody made that up and then it went viral. It is not scientific.
I'm a sig male.
Go from science. Beta, brainwave. Alpha, brainwave. So alphas, to make a long story short, but we're still going to go off a little bit more about this, but to make a long story short, alphas spend more time in alpha brainwaves. And when you are around a person that is more alpha than you are, your brain goes into beta brainwaves around them because you go beta to an alpha. So alpha exists on a spectrum. So the person that was saying like mansplaining in the comments, which again, I respect that that's your opinion. I'm glad that you commented, but
thank you for commenting.
Understand that what you're saying is not scientifically accurate. Okay. Because even in a beta-beta relationship, there's still an alpha in that relationship. Okay. So unfortunately, those of us that had spent too much time in fight or flight as children have higher alpha brain waves. / we just have more progesterone, testosterone, whatever that makes an alpha, but you can see alphas in brain waves. And actually, the children of today's world, and trigger warning, because you're going to get triggered, the children that are transgender, right, are alpha. So especially because 95% of transgenders are females, they're confused because they have this huge amount of masculine energy. I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. I'm just telling you the science. Okay. They have this huge amount of masculine energy and they don't understand themselves because we do not teach to alpha children versus beta children. Alpha children are different. They don't do well in school. They have a massive amount of masculine energy. They feel the need to take charge. Sometimes they even boss the teacher around. You're going to see a lot of stuff with alpha children. They're running around the classroom, can't pay any attention. They want to be put on Ritalin and everything else to control them because alphas are naturally rebellious. They march to the beat of their own drum. A lot of parents think that they're absolute nightmares. welcome to the Thunderdome. You have a special child. And for those that are upset that I said that about transgender, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I don't care what you do. I'm just saying that unless we start to recognize alphas as alphas, especially alpha females, because literally they're an anomaly. It's not normal, but there's more and more of them. If alpha females like us do not step forward and do not lead the next generation to understand that you can be a man like we are, we own a company. I'm not going to call it being a boss bitch. It's being a man. And
100%.
I mean, like, when I whip my dick out, get the fuck out of the way. But when I put it away, it's fully invisible. Nobody can see it. I can walk around as the most feminine woman you've ever met, the best beta you've ever known, because I have learned how to develop both of my energy frequencies. So I date hyper alpha men because they love that I'm an alpha woman, but you know what they love even more? That I don't use it unless they ask me to. Because they're my alpha in a relationship, because I want to be a feminine core in my relationship and I want to be a boss all the way at my work. But men that you date want you to be a boss at work, and then they want you to, it makes it even sexier when you surrender to them in a relationship. So for those of you that are alphas and are like, oh my God, I'm identifying so much. Nicole and I were both tomboys. I mean, like, completely tomboys, and we used to be praised for that. And I mean, again, I don't mind that. I can put on, you know, a full suit and go four-wheeling and mud things and like enjoy and love what boys do. Play with GI Joes, ride horses.
We used to catch fish with our hands in the creek.
Yeah, get worms, catch grasshoppers, do all the things.
Yeah,
fish. Hunt. I don't really care.
If we were raised in today's era as girls, they would 100%, we would have been identified as trans. Because of like, there was no feminine.
There's brainwashing to it, my opinion. Okay, because they don't understand what they are.
Right.
So it's not. And again, do what you need to do. I do not believe in putting children in hormones. If you want to, you know, get a double mastectomy and whatever once you're 18, that's your prerogative. I don't have any judgment. I just want you to understand
what's happening,
what you are, and then you can make, again, we're not here to shame. We are here that you make educated decisions and that you better understand what is happening, because nobody else is talking about it. And again, it's a brain wave. So if you are a woman that has alpha brainwaves and you're in fight or flight more than women ought to be. Plus, there's a genetic predisposition, just like psychopathy or anything else. You know, our brains as alphas are different. Okay. So, and who knows what causes that? I actually don't know. There's theories that neurodivergence is actually trauma and things like that. And like I said, in the past episode, like FBI agents, CIA agents would say that the perfect amount of trauma actually creates a more suitable human being for life. And they look for that when they're hiring agents. But, you know, again, we need to educate so that people make informed decisions. We talked about this in the birth control stuff. I don't care what people do. I think you should live your best life, love who you want, sleep with who you want. But understand the price of what you're doing. That's it. Just, I want everyone to understand the price tag, because everybody likes knowing, like, oh, that purse is nice, but how expensive is that purse before I emotionally attach to it and want to buy it?
Well, you know, and the thing that's really interesting is now there's a lot of science coming out. Science. Yes, science. That is being backed that, like, transgender kids, that especially out of the UK, because they were huge on this movement.
Yeah, they were.
Huge.
Yeah, they were.
And now a lot of the doctors that were on these studies are actually now coming out and saying that they weren't studies. And so they're actually saying how detrimental it has been for children to be on puberty blockers, on hormone blockers, like all of these things. Now, hormone blockers have been around for a very long time. And they've been around for children that actually have chromosomal issues where they start puberty like super early, or there's something like genetically happening where they've done the testing, they've been working with a doctor, and usually this is like 0.02% that get put on puberty blockers to help them be able to maybe go another 4 or 5 more years before then they actually were within the age of puberty, correct?
Right.
Not this, oh, by the way. Now, with putting those children on puberty blockers, they were able to see in the long-term effects were actually fine, because then eventually they come off of the puberty blockers and then they can go through puberty at a reasonable age instead of going through puberty at like 5 or 6.
That's
And
so young.
this has been a very long time. We've had puberty blockers for a very long time. And now there's a lot of people that have come out, a lot of doctors that are coming out and saying like, we only had the genetic research behind those who had chromosomal based or genetic based dispositions of early childhood puberty. And so ideally what has happened with this transgender movement is that, yes, they're sitting there saying that it's all backed by science, but it actually has not been backed by science. We have only been in this movement for less than a decade. And so that is where this is becoming a severe problem. And this is why Megan is saying, like, this is a war on the children. This is a war on alpha children.
Alphas.
Because now we are actually finding, and they're doing brain research. You can go and look at like Dr. Joe. He's huge into meditation. He talks about alpha brainwaves. He talks about beta brainwaves. He talks about actually being able to balance alpha and beta in a trauma state in the brain. And they're doing scientific research on this. Now, the other thing that's really fascinating that's recently come out is that children that are classified as neurodivergent, now everyone seems to be classified as neurodivergent in some way, shape, or form. But neurodivergency, when they do brain scans on a child and or adult that is claimed neurodivergent, they have high levels of alpha brainwaves. So that child and that adult is actually showing up that they're in high levels of fight or flight. And then if you go back and actually look at them, most likely they have some form of trauma. Now, Megan and I, both alpha females, one hell of I was a force to be reckoned with as a child, but I didn't know what was happening. And so same with Meg. And until we really started getting into this work and realizing that we were alphas and we were out of control alphas, both of our parents are alphas. We are born alphas, and we are here to help other alphas understand that. Now, I totally understand, like, the archetype of male alpha is a thing, and it's been deemed very toxic. But I'm going to flip the script on that, and I'm going to flip the coin. But alpha women, this boss bitch culture, is toxic as fuck. You women are out of control.
When it's not balanced.
And you need to find balance in your life because you have let your masculine soul come forward. You are dick slaying everybody with your energetic dick, and you're burning out your nervous system. And I almost 99% guarantee that if you went and got a brain scan, you have high levels of PTSD and most likely very high levels of alpha brainwaves. And that is a true definition of alpha. You have so much stuff going on in your head, literally, chemically, biologically, energetically, energy, because the brain is literally just energy. It's all electricity, that you would look at it and then come back and actually break down what an alpha is and the archetype of an alpha, and you would be like, wow. So yes, there's alpha men, not as many as there used to be, or they're like hidden in a box. We come across them quite frequent. Well, they're starting more and more starting to like surface and heal.
Well, there's still just as many alpha males. They're just in hiding because their mothers emasculated them because they never let them step. So the problem with the 21st century is that women are being raised as men and men are being raised as women. That's why there's more alpha females than there ever has been. And the alpha males have been emasculated. So it actually causes brain damage, but whatever.
More brain damage.
It's because the alpha mom doesn't know how to take a back seat to her son because she stays in the mother role, not realizing that she needs to, at 11, she needs to step into starting to respect her son the way she respects her husband so that he becomes a full-blown alpha. If he stays underneath her protective, giving, masculine, mothering instinct, right? Because mothering is to give, protect, and cherish. So it's actually masculine, even though it's nurturing, and women have a broader ability to do that in that specific energy. It's doing, so it's masculine. It's loving another, so it's masculine. And so we have to understand as alpha mothers that one of the most important things we do is, if we do have a son, is to allow him to become his alpha self and not to like legitimately castrate him energetically by continuing to out alpha him. You have to allow him to step into that role, because we need strong men, right? Even though we're alpha women, I fully understand that me on the front lines shooting a gun doesn't work, right? Like, I'm not a feminist because I realize that men and women are different, and I don't believe in equality because I don't want to be drafted, and I don't want to go fight on the front lines and do things that men are meant to do. They're meant to give, protect, and cherish. That I do that at work, but I'm not willing to go fight in a war or do those kinds of things. That's where my alpha is less than a man's. It always will be. Are women absolutely brilliant and they can do like warfare and problem solving? Yes, but it still remains that genetically we are different. They have testosterone. They're always going to be stronger. They're always going to get angrier faster. There's just these legitimate scientific differences between men and women, no matter what anybody says. And that's the other problem, going back to the transgender movement, is that our brains are completely different from a man's. If you scan a male brain, you scan a female brain, you can tell the difference in the brain because men and women are different. And so when you put a human on puberty blockers or do those kinds of things, how the brain develops is actually dictated by sex hormones. We have more receptors in the brain for sex hormones than any other hormones. So we need to understand that we don't fully understand. Science does not know fully what happens when you put a developing brain on puberty blockers, because that changes the entire dynamic of the brain and the entire actual development of the brain. And we don't know. That science is not privy to us yet. We have not studied it. We don't know. All we know is that it would change it, period. We know it would. So, we need to understand that we don't understand. And sometimes when we step in and we start playing with how nature intended, there are very, very dark ramifications for that. And, again, I'm a huge advocate for love who you want, be who you are. I don't care if, I guess I have plenty of gay friends, lesbian friends. Like, I believe in love through and through.
Yeah.
But
we're not talking about that.
I'm just talking about, when we start putting chemicals in things in bodies and we don't know what it's going to do, we're taking huge risks. Even our podcast on birth control talks about how much it changes a woman, and you're not even putting her on blockers or things that and it completely alters the brain. So just based off of that, I'm making a theory or a hypothesis that it would completely cause psychosis in some form or another, because you're literally doing you have to be damaging the brain. It's looking for something that it's not getting. So again, this is hypothesis, this is Megan Smith's hypothesis. This is not science, but Megan Michelina, I just said my real name, but whatever. Try to find me. Good luck. We don't even need witness protection. But anyway, just a really important conversation to have. And if you guys have questions or things, we can talk more about this, but alpha is science.
Oh, it's 100% science. And we can argue it with science. And every alpha woman, every alpha male we've met knows they're alpha.
Oh, well, it's obvious.
Yes.
Also, I feel it. Like when I walk in a room and there's an alpha male, my dick just goes. My dick just disappears, and then I'm like, how girly can I be?
But it's also very important to realize that I don't think it's just a war on children, where there's also a massive war on alpha men. and the alpha women are like honestly out of control because they're emasculating their little alpha little boys, like Megan was saying. And it's just understanding what this is. We are not shaming anyone. We are just educating you, and we can give you all of the research, and we can give you books and all of the things that we talk about. We can back it because we want this world to be ran by alphas. We want people to understand their power. We want people to step into their power and be the best version of themselves. And alphas have that choice and that ability to change the world, and we are here for it.
Which is why there's a war on us, because if they kill alphas, then they can control everything.
Yes. And right now the world is being ran by some very dark beta weirdos.
Hopefully that's changing.
Hopefully it's changing, but you know, it's definitely there. And so if you have any more questions on alpha, please feel free to reach out. If you're watching us on YouTube, did I miss anything else that you wanted to touch on?
No.
Awesome. YouTube, subscribe, like, comment. If you want to know more about alphas, comment. If you don't agree, comment. Here, let us have it.
We'll spit more science.
I will give you all of it all day long. Neither one of us will back down on this topic because we are very passionate about it. Apple, Spotify, like, share. And if there is anything that you want to hear about, elaborate, anything like that, you can always send us a DM at synchronicity_ over on Instagram. Until next time.